From the Coil Free Library in downtown Chambersburg, it's The Progress Pod, a production of the Franklin County Coalition for Progress. I'm Pete Mazzoni with Jeremy Cate. On today's show, we're going to speak with Francis Achampong, Ph.D., Chancellor, Penn State Mont Alto, about an amazing new Mont Alto LaunchBox entrepreneur program. Launched in 2015 by Penn State President Eric Barron, Invent Penn State is a $30 million initiative redefining the university's land-grant mission to include entrepreneurship and innovation, programs, tools, and resources that accelerate the movement of great ideas to the marketplace and make a substantial economic development impact in Pennsylvania and beyond. Thank you for joining us today, Francis.
Sure.
We're glad to have you here to talk about this interesting program. Tell us about how you got involved in LaunchBox.
Right. So the university decided to take this model that the university has had for over a century now, which is the extension model, where Penn State Extension is in every county helping farmers over the past century to evolve farming techniques from the rudimentary techniques that we had from the turn of the century to the high-tech science-based farming that we have now. Mm-hmm. So this is a footprint of the extension.
For the listeners, he's showing a map that shows all the places that this program can be found, and it does go throughout the entire state.
So we decided to use that model for entrepreneurship and redefine what a land-grant university does in the 21st century. So now we have 21 innovation hubs that we've established across the Commonwealth. Penn State Mont Alto was funded in the third iteration, the third year of the funding program. So you mentioned that Penn State committed $30 million to it. Mm-hmm. So they've been giving seed money to these innovation hubs, $50,000 a year for 3 years, $150,000 total.
For each different hub?
For each different hub, to bring free resources to the community to help aspiring entrepreneurs bring their ideas to market. So we applied for seed money because we thought this was a great thing for our community to have. And we were funded in the third year of the program. And the reason I'm running it is because I don't have any full-time staff yet. But we are hoping that down the line, we will be able to have an endowment that will generate enough revenues to turn this over to staff to take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. And so tell us about how the program works.
Right.
How do you get involved? What are the resources available?
Right. So this is available to anybody in the community, not just people with a Penn State affinity or Penn State connection. Obviously, we want students, faculty, and staff to take advantage of it, but it's for the entire community. So we have a LaunchBox space downtown, and we offer workshops in there. These are free workshops, and we advertise them broadly. So anybody is free to come to these workshops. And since we've been running since January 2018, we've had 42 people come to our workshops because, we have people sign in. So we know who's coming and we know what their business is and what they're hoping to get out of the workshop. So that's one of the things we do. We've done workshops on, so you have an idea for a business, now what? Which is very basic. We've done workshops on how to put together a business plan, because some people are stuck on that.
That can be one of the toughest things. It's one thing to say I have a great idea. It's another thing to say, how do I actually bring it to market?
Exactly. And we have all these partners that we partner with that we bring in and we use their resources. So, for example, the workshop on how to put together a business plan was facilitated by somebody from the SBDC. Mm-hmm. The very first one on what to do with your idea was facilitated by somebody from SCORE.
Okay, now tell us about who those people are and what the SBDC is.
Right, so the SBDC is a Small Business Development Center, and they have an office in Shippensburg University. So we partner with them, and they serve as a resource for us. SCORE is the society. It's a Council of Retired Executives.
Oh, okay.
So these are people who ran businesses.
Lots of experience.
Lots of experience, and now they're volunteering their time to help people. We've done workshops on what form of business to choose. So we had an attorney, Tracy Ross, local attorney, and a CPA, Ryan Stoffer, together, tag team, come into the space, do a workshop on what to choose as a business form. Do you want to be a sole proprietorship? Do you want to have a partnership? Do you want to have an LLC, an S corporation? These are things that people, might not know what is best.
Well, and if you're the creative type, those concepts don't even occur to you.
Right.
You're just an idea person.
Right.
Sole proprietorship, what is that?
Right. And so now you mentioned you're an idea person. So then there comes the question of, is your idea something that can be protected? Mm-hmm. So now you're talking about intellectual property. So Penn State has an intellectual property clinic that has a director who worked in Silicon Valley, and she has a PhD, in the sciences, and she also has a JD. So she runs this clinic. So she comes down every year to talk about how you can protect your bright idea, whether it is a patent or whether it is a trademark or whether it's a trade secret. And the beauty of it is, because we are offering all of these services free, we're not charging anything, they will actually walk you through getting a patent. The only thing you would have to do, Pete, is pay the filing fee.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you don't have to pay any attorney's fees. So in other words, you really
That's a huge savings.
That's a huge savings. And that's part of what we call de-risking the whole process. Because without that, somebody might never get started. Because
right, they would contact an attorney, they would give them their fee, and they'd say, well, that's the end of that.
Exactly. We also partner with Penn State's Entrepreneurial Assistance Clinic, which is separate from the IP clinic, Intellectual Property Clinic. This Entrepreneur Assistance Clinic will actually help somebody set up the LLC that they decided after they came to our workshop that the LLC is the best form for me. Mm-hmm. We'll hook them up with the Entrepreneur Assistance Clinic. We've actually had 3 companies come through our workshops. So they've gotten help to set up an LLC. They've gotten help to get a federal taxpayer ID. They've gotten help to get a state sales tax license, all for free. Mm-hmm. They just had to pay filing fees.
Sure.
We even had a nonprofit in Shippensburg that has been set up, Shippensburg Revitalization Group or something like that. Not only did they help them with this process, it was already an LLC. The Entrepreneur Assistance Clinic told them, you really are better off as a nonprofit being an Inc., an INC instead of an LLC. So they converted them from an LLC to an INC and helped them with a whole bunch of other stuff. And they were interested in tax abatement in Shippensburg, so they could do some things for the borough, for the county. So the clinic actually gave them a LERTA template, LERTA, and it has to do with revitalization and tax assistance. So that helped them a great deal. So 2 for-profit companies up and running that came through us. All of them got LLCs established through us. A nonprofit that is actually bringing cultural events to Shippensburg. So patrons are supporting the restaurants and supporting hotels. So some good things are happening.
So I come to you with my idea.
Right.
How do you help me vet my idea? Because I'm sure there are good ideas and there are bad ideas.
Right.
So how does LaunchBox kind of work me through whether or not my idea is even viable?
Right. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll get an email from somebody saying, I've heard about the LaunchBox and I'd like some help. And this is, what I'd like to get some help on. Or they might not say exactly what they need. They'll get in touch with me and say, I'm getting started and I need some help. And I'll ask them, well, exactly what do you need? And based on what they tell me they need, I will refer them appropriately. Mm-hmm. So
is the answer not just money?
Well, we don't give money away.
Okay.
So we don't give money away. We give free resources away, but not money. So we have seed money ourselves from the university.
Okay.
And it is out of that seed money that we're providing all of these free services. So money is the one thing we do not give away. But having said that, Penn State has invested in a venture capital fund called 1855 Capital. The university was set up in 1855, so they're calling it that. Now, Penn State doesn't own it, but Penn State has invested in it. And it's run by a guy called Matt Rhodes, who's the general manager. And they invest in companies that have a Penn State affinity. So if somebody came out of one of these launch boxes and they really are promising, they might get an investment. But obviously, it's for equity. Mm-hmm. They take an equity stake in it. It wouldn't be a giveaway. Mm-hmm. So based on what the person needs, they might just need help with a business plan. So in that case, I'll send them to Cheryl Young, at the SBDC. They might need help with marketing. So we have had workshops on how to get the word out about your business. And that was done by a lady by the name of Kristen Ladick. We also did another one called Purposeful Marketing that Kim Kreider did. So I would invite them to come to that workshop if you want to know how to market your business. And we've had people come and sit in. They've been given lots of resources, lots of ideas, and they've run with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have existing businesses that come to you, maybe that are struggling?
So we have existing businesses that have certain needs. Mm-hmm. So we've helped 7 existing businesses. I said earlier that we've helped 3 businesses be formed. But we've helped 7 existing businesses that were already in existence that needed some sort of resource. So, for example, we had a company in Greencastle called Native Niche. And they do landscaping for people, but they only use plants that are native to Pennsylvania. And
that's a good idea.
They came to us and they, wanted to do some things now, which were beyond our expertise, obviously, so I connected them to the College of Ag Sciences. Mm-hmm. And they took it from there.
Right. So in a sense, you're kind of a connection to resources that people wouldn't normally have access to.
Exactly. So if you look at our mission, one of it is to connect people to resources. Another one is to inspire people. So the way we inspire is, we bring students who have successful businesses, and I'll tell you about some of them.
Yes, let's hear
We
it.
bring them down from State College because they seem to be doing so much. Happy Valley LaunchBox is very well resourced. PNC Bank gave them $1 million, and the university matched it. So they got a $2 million endowment. The university will match $1 million and name a LaunchBox. But they'll match any gift that's at least $25,000. So Happy Valley LaunchBox has a $2 million endowment, and they have a great space, co-working space, and they've got all these STEM students. They're doing some fantastic things,
right.
and I'll share some things with you. So we inspire by bringing students down. We do a little forum so our students can see students who look just like them, who've set up companies, and they're getting investments. Some have graduated and moved out west. I'll tell you about some of them. We also motivate, So we have a lion tank competition. It's kind of like Shark Tank. I don't know whether you've seen
Shark Tank, for those who don't know, you
Right.
bring your idea before a bunch of well-established entrepreneurs, and they either send you home with your tail between your legs or fund you.
Exactly. So we have a lion tag because, of course, it's got to have something
Penn
to do with the Nittany
Roar.
lion, right? And we have a panel of judges that we've been using, since we started. We're going to go into our 3rd lion tank competition. One of them is a retired banker, John Rotz. One of them is an entrepreneur who actually got started by licensing Penn State intellectual property. Her name is Lindsay Coverett, and she's doing very well. And the other one is the head of Global Data, Mike Turkovac.
The IT company.
Turkovac, right.
Mm-hmm.
So those 3, they serve as our,
Are they as tough as the TV show?
They are tough. Now, the top 2 contestants get a prize. We give the top contestant $1,500. So that's some of what we're using our seed money for to motivate people to come forward with their ideas. Second place is $1,000. The very first competition we held, the person who won it was a nonprofit. Somebody would set up a nonprofit that already existed called Kirsten Hubbard, and the company's called Ghostwriters. It gave her a lot of publicity because WDVM came and covered it. She was on TV in the Quad State area.
That always helps.
And she used the $1,500 to upgrade her computers. So
what does Ghostwriters do?
So Ghostwriters, they do grant writing for people. They do marketing for nonprofits. They do grant writing. They do marketing. They help people with fundraising. Things like that. Happy
Valley is a hotbed of entrepreneurship. You might think it's just State College. It's not.
Right.
I mean, there's so much innovation going on up there.
So much innovation going on there. They have a place up there called Innovation Park. And some of these students, one of whom I'll tell you about, let me see if I can pull out his information. He now actually he's graduated. He now has an office in Innovation Park, attracting lots of funding. His name is Hunter Swisher. He was an ag major, and he worked with these faculty members in ag who, did some research with phosphorus. And he saw a business opportunity, so he licensed the intellectual property, set up a company called Phospholutions.
Nice.
And so what he's doing is he has a patented soil amendment that traps up to 98% of fertilizer in the soil, and it prevents runoff. So it's far more efficient and cost-effective than conventional phosphorus fertilizers.
Sounds like there's a market for that.
This was a student.
Yeah.
Right? I'll show you another student who is now in California. He went out west, but because of the high rents, in Silicon Valley, he relocated to Oakland. But Chevy Carbasi, he formed a company called Moicor. His granddad had cancer, and he had to drive him constantly to the lab
to his appointments,
draw blood and things like that. And he thought there's got to be a better way. So he started researching how to do it better. So he came up with a test strip. You can prick your finger in your own home, put it on this test strip, and in 30 seconds you get a full blood count. And he has a smartphone app that he developed that will send the results to your healthcare provider.
Interesting.
So he's attracting lots of investment. And like I said, he graduated, he was a biology major, moved out to Silicon Valley, but is now in Oakland because the rent is too high in Silicon Valley. So, I mean, those are...
the stories about the cost of living out there are
so unnerving. These are great success stories, So obviously, Invent Penn State is really having an impact. In terms of statewide, when you look at the 21 innovation hubs, so far they've served 2,500 entrepreneurs. I mean, that's phenomenal. And 224 startups.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we have 3 right here, which are probably not in this count because we did our own survey, recently to find out from the people who've been coming what they've done with all the help they got. 208 product development projects, 146 new jobs. That's phenomenal.
Those are metrics that count.
That's exactly
right. With the economy changing and adapting, how important is entrepreneurship to the health of the state economy?
Right. So entrepreneurship has always been important. People will probably tell you that small business has always been the driver.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Of the economy, yeah. So if we can help entrepreneurs get off the ground and bring their ideas to market, whether it's a new product or a new service. It doesn't always have to be a product, a gadget.
Right.
It can be a service. That's great for the economy. It will stimulate economic development. It will, boost the economy because jobs will be created. People will earn a living. They can pay taxes.
They can get employees. They can continue to grow.
Exactly.
Where is the LaunchBox space locally?
So it's 40 North 2nd Street. It looks like a carriage house. So it has quite a bit of character. So that's where we hold the workshops. It also has a co-working space. So if we had an entrepreneur who was working on an idea, who didn't have an office, wanted to have a desk where they could work, they can come and use a desk.
Mm-hmm. You probably provide Wi-Fi, and
we have a 3D printer in there in case they're working on some kind of a prototype.
Is this building staffed, or does someone need to plan
so
in advance to use it?
Right. We did have a student intern who has graduated. So it currently isn't staffed, even though we've been looking for a replacement intern who can spend some time in the space. But we might get a call, and somebody might say, can I use the space? And we will make arrangements.
Looking at your website, you offer services at 5 different levels.
Right.
And it starts with level 1. Here's the idea.
Right.
And so I present my idea.
Right.
And determining market opportunity, how is that done?
Right.
Because that's got to be one of the trickiest things out there.
Right.
Is there anybody out there that might need this good or service?
Right. So when we refer you to SCORE, or to SBDC, one of their volunteers will be talking to you about that. In the Happy Valley LaunchBox, they have, a whole thing that they do in the summertime. If you're accepted into the program, they have a summer program. They actually give those folks like 10 grand so they don't have to work. And they can just spend time.
And that's only up in Happy Valley?
Up in Happy Valley, because they have so many resources.
Well, what are the qualifications to get into that program?
You have to apply, and
it's got to be fairly rigorous, I imagine.
Yeah, right, fairly rigorous, and you have to be committed to the idea. So they do like boot camps and proof of concept, type things, So, but here we would connect you to somebody to help you think it through and to see if, is there really a market for this beyond maybe your siblings saying we think this is a great
Mom and Dad saying go for it.
This is a great idea, right? So, is there a problem that this solves? A lot of the time, that's what it comes down to.
That's an interesting question, because if you can answer that in the affirmative or the negative, it can tell you whether or not you've really got something.
Right. And so if it solves a problem, then there might be a need in the marketplace for it, right?
The thing I'm hearing is that what you're offering is the structure that can help a business grow.
Right.
As we were talking earlier, it's great to be a creative and have a good idea.
Right.
But all these are basically the building blocks that help the idea actually become real.
Right. And so what we have done in the university, they call it an entrepreneurial ecosystem.
That's perfect.
Right. So these 21 hubs really are an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And, the IP clinic, the Entrepreneur Assistance Clinic. And there is actually a clinic that revolves around ag. And
well, it's true to their original mission, I guess.
Now, Dickinson Law School, they are our partners, too. They have something called the Business Law Society. So these are law students who work with a law professor by the name of Samantha Prince, who teaches entrepreneurship law. And they came down and did a workshop on franchising. Should I buy into a franchise? So she came with like 3 law students. The law students actually do the presenting, but she's there too.
Critique.
Can answer questions and things like that. So, like you said, we are just helping people move ideas along.
Is there a space that you see more ideas coming from than another? For instance, like internet companies or...
Right. So one of the companies that has been established is an internet company. And interestingly enough, it was established by an executive of Patriot Federal. He came to our workshops because he said he'd been chewing on this idea. So he came to the workshop on what form to choose in establishing a business, the one that Tracy Ross and Ryan Stauffer did. And after that, he decided to do an LLC. So he's actually listed on Amazon. If you order books, I don't know what kinds of books he's selling. I'll ask him, but his name is John Kilduff. The other company, I think he calls it, it's a sports themed company, and I think it's All Star Sports Displays, I think is what he calls it. He came to almost every workshop we did. He was really dedicated.
Yeah.
His name is Eugene Sarvis. And so got help to set up an LLC, and he makes these wall-mounted trophy displays, but they're sports themed. So I've seen one. It's a big baseball that you would put on your wall, and at the bottom of it, it's got little hooks for you to put your medals on.
Feel really good about your
right,
success.
put your medals on. So he's called All Star Displays LLC, and he says the displays are laser cut from metal, and then they're painted with industrial powder coat. So he does direct sales and sales on Facebook because he hasn't constructed a website yet.
Now that brings up an interesting question. Do you guys help with things like shipping logistics or production logistics?
Right.
Because if you do have a tangible good, shipping can be a huge
Right,
issue.
right. We haven't yet had anybody ask us about that, but interestingly enough, that you would mention logistics, our campus just started this past fall. We just started a 4-year degree in project and supply chain management.
It's an important part of our economy.
So we've hired a PhD in that field. So I suppose if somebody needed help, we could refer him to our PhD.
Do you find that there's more students, more people from out in the community?
Right.
What is the kind of the balance that you're seeing?
For us, it's been more people in the community. For Happy Valley, I think it's probably more students, but they also get people from the community. I mean, I've been in the Happy Valley LaunchBox visiting, and there have been people from the community coming in to talk to Rachel Herder about intellectual property, or to talk to Tom Schabour because they had an appointment. But you see all these desks in there, and they've got little plaques, with the names of the startups that are working on it, and it's a lot of students, especially the STEM students. It's interesting that they are more entrepreneurial than the business students.
That is interesting. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's because they're creative, and
the-
they're using those parts of their brain.
right. The engineering students, the science students, they seem to be, the ones doing quite a bit of stuff. I didn't bring something to show you on a company called Reflection, which he spells with an X.
Okay.
He, when he was in high school, he was on the football team. He suffered a concussion, and they didn't know he had a concussion. He came out of the game. I guess they put the finger out, and they put him back in the game.
That's the standard, used to be the standard operating
For
procedure.
3 months, he was out. So he has invented something to detect a concussion right on the sidelines. It's a big screen, and it tests reflexes. It will put random lights out, and you have to point to them to test your reflexes to see whether your reflexes are off. And I think he's ratcheted it up to even be used in rehabilitation. He's attracted a lot of investment.
I bet he has.
And
Because you've got a lot of parents that don't want their kids in contact sports for this exact
Right,
reason.
and he's won quite a number of pitch competitions, as did Chevy, the guy who came up with the test strip. They've won quite a bit of pitch competitions and some big money. Yeah.
So let's talk about applying, and let's just get down to the brass tacks.
Right.
Of what the dates and times and what you need to do.
Right,
If you
right.
have an idea?
Right. So we on our website, if somebody wants to apply for help, they can go on our website, fill out a form. If they want to participate in the Lion Tank competition, there's a form, they can fill it out. And what happens is we will look at all of the applications to pitch, and we will pick the ones that we think are the most interesting, most viable ideas. We give them a coach, because I have an entrepreneurship advisory council that has 12 people on it, and we will assign a coach to them to coach them as to how to put together their presentation and come and do their pitch,
So if an idea doesn't make the cut, do you offer them any feedback?
Right. So if an idea doesn't make the cut, if it's a promising idea but they didn't make the cut, then we ask them, as we did, this past iteration when we did the Lion Tank competition. There was a student on our campus who had an idea for a business, but it wasn't far along enough. The people who pitched, they really had worked on their ideas. one of the ideas that won second place was a student from Shippensburg University, came up with an invention called powder popper. He invented this thing that you can put on any feeding bottle, and the powder is in the bottle, but you don't have to scoop powder into a bottle and add water.
It's already there.
Right. So this powder popper, it has the powder in there. The water is in the bottle, but it's fastened. When you get ready to feed the baby, you pop the popper and it releases the powder into there.
Ready to go.
And you just shake it. I think he's patented it. The folks who won first place, Beagle Drones, they've come up with this racing drone that you can assemble in 30 minutes. I didn't know that there was anything like drone racing. Did you know that?
Yes, I've seen it, and it's actually pretty amazing.
So they're sponsoring drone races, so it's exciting.
It is exciting.
It is exciting.
This kind of innovation, I think, is
Right,
what
it
really
is.
drives the American economy.
It really is exciting. So we hope to continue to offer this service.
And we're looking for that $1 million donation so we
We
can get the
are.
match, right?
So I'll be speaking to the chamber in March 12th, and obviously I'll share with them the fact that Penn State has this 1-for-1 match, minimum $25,000. So we've got some potential donors out there. We've talked to some people who've expressed interest, and they're chewing on it. But like I said, they will match up to $1 million. Now, we got the shock of our lives, so Happy Valley, nobody was surprised that PNC Bank stepped up and gave them $1 million. The Innovation Hub in Hazleton, somebody that they didn't even know was interested in entrepreneurship or had the capacity to give them $1 million when they heard about it, stepped up. Hazleton has $1 million,
Yeah.
and the university matched it.
Well, this is a fantastic program.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about some upcoming events you have that the
Right.
local community could attend?
Right. So we're actually going to do a lunch and learn for the first time. So we're going to take it to the chamber. There is a date for that I don't have off the top of my head, but it is on our website. So
February 27th, 2020. What does
Great.
it take to be an entrepreneur?
Great.
Does that sound right?
Great, right. And in addition to that, I think Mike Ross of FCADC and some other people are going to talk about how to find funding in that same session. So that should be great.
And what's your website for the LaunchBox?
So it's monalto.psu.edu/launchbox.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the
Well,
program
you're
today.
welcome.
I love what you're doing.
You're welcome.
I hope that the program really succeeds here locally
I hope so,
and
too.
throughout the state. Thanks
I hope
again.
so too. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Thanks
okay.
everyone for listening, and find us online at progresspod.org.